I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought and died just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, and welcome to Season 35, Episode 19 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Jay.
And I'm Pooja.
In today's episode, Gergmerg asks how to resurrect an old campaign. Spats asks for recommendations for an open table style game. And from the archive 2018, Harold from St. Louis has a D&D question. If you'd like to contribute a question or a story to the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. Or you can post in the mailbag channel of the Discord at happyjacks.org/discord. Announcements. LFGCon is happening this weekend. In fact, right now, I just came from there at the Marriott Hotel in Burbank. It's a great little first-year con. Actually, I was very, very impressed. Very well organized. The hotel is nice. They've had really great panels throughout the day. Really a lot of like open gaming happening, which is really nice. And all very like seamless to get your badge and the parking and everything. It's very, I was impressed. Well done, LFGCon. Like very good.
That's fantastic. Hopefully they're back next year.
Yeah, they're planning on it. They're not sure if they'll be able to have the same weekend next year. But they're for a good con, and honestly, for how wild today is a pretty wild day in LA, and they still had like really good attendance, and there were a lot of people there playing games and stuff, so that's great. So definitely for next year, it'll be great. Indie Designer of the Month, we're gonna start that next week because I just got back from LFGCon and I don't have time to type up our new Indie Designer of the Month, so stay tuned. The suspense is worth the wait or something. Okay. All right. Mailbag number 1. Who would like to read this?
Oh, this one.
Okay.
Ahoy, Kimmy and the Happy Jacks crew. I haven't been able to GM for a long time. I'm finally feeling like I might be able to again, and I'd like to revive an old campaign. However, it's been maybe a year and a half or maybe 2 years since I last ran it. My group already expressed enthusiasm for it, so I know everyone's on board in theory. But it's been a while since we played that setting and world. So I'm looking for any advice y'all might have about resurrecting slumbering campaigns. Is that something y'all have done before? What went well? Did you encounter any pitfalls? Were there traps? Thank you, and happy gaming, Gergmerg. Sorry, I wanted to read this just so I could say the name.
Yeah.
P.S. No P.S. But I'm P.S.
You are.
P.P.S. Speaking of returning to old stuff, I'm really enjoying the From the Archives emails. Thanks for doing them.
Oh, so glad you like them. All right. What would you do?
It's not something that I have had experience in before. Specifically, like, I'm trying to think. Generally, all of my campaigns, outside of established seasons for shows, because there are sometimes, like, just large, like, multi-month differences between when you record seasons for a show. But, I think the big thing will be that everybody has different memories about what happened before, and all of them will be incomplete, including yours, and just embrace it.
Yep.
Like, retcon what you need to, go in, have the first, like, either have a new session 0 period, and then, like, where y'all can rehash and figure out, like, what parts everybody's most excited about going back to. And then when you actually get into it, don't be afraid to retcon the hell out of everything. Like, it's... And then the other thing I think would be really cool, like, especially out of figuring out what everybody remembers about it and just figuring out like what the parts are that you're most excited about seeing, and then what the best callbacks will be. Like if you can bring a character back that they all really loved, or you could bring or you could make a complication off of a thing that they thought they solved, especially if you're going to do, because my first thought when I'm reading this is like, okay, is there a time jump in the campaign?
Yeah.
What have they been doing in the meantime?
Yeah. I was gonna say the same thing actually. Depending on whether you still have campaign notes, actually, or
I
if
forget
those
not
have
everybody
been...
saves their notes forever.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, maybe you have that notebook handy and you could look into it, and that's great, and that's fine and good. Maybe you've put that notebook away or somehow gotten rid of it for some reason, and those notes are just like gone. If you've done them digitally, maybe they're easier to bring up. But if you have your notes and can look into them easily, I mean, you, like Pooja said, do a session 0 and kind of do a recap with everybody. I think it might actually even be fun for everybody to write down what they remember separately,
Yes.
bring that back, and see how, congruous or incongruous those notes are, right?
Yep. Give them all homework.
Yeah.
Wahaha.
And maybe, I mean, it might be a fun thing to do to get everybody on board, get everybody in the same place or on the same platform, and read those notes to each other and see if there are any inconsistencies. And if there aren't, great, that's awesome, right?
And if there are, also great. That's
also
awesome.
awesome. You can work them into characters coming together after a long time and just completely having different memories of what happened. You can decide together whether you want that to be an in-game or an out-of-game thing. But actually, yeah, when you mentioned the time jump, this is a good opportunity to kind of explore other aspects of the campaign too. Maybe, I've done a returning campaign before, back in the 4th edition, Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition days. And basically what I did was I started everybody in a different region of my homebrew world, some years after the last events that they did. And so they got to kind of see the repercussions from afar. That's always fun, but also...
Or be in the middle of them.
Yeah, yeah,
I do love
exactly.
an in media res, kind of.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can just pick up right where you left off if you remember, if everybody remembers,
Or even with a time jump.
Sure,
if you pick up and it's okay, each of you is in a different area, but maybe some of you were kind of half retired or whatever it is,
yeah.
or whatever your ultimate peace dream was, and then some of you are really in the weeds dealing with the fallout of something that went wrong or something that went right unexpectedly.
Yeah.
I just think I find that kind of stuff really fun, especially with sequels, especially with time gaps. When you come back, I don't know, my memory's shit is what I'm saying. That's why I write everything down.
Yeah. I've done this a few times. I've done it with our Eldemy campaign in D&D. We did it very famously with, for the people, some people who listen to it, but our L5R campaigns were all in the same world. Both times, some of the most interesting things were we weren't the same characters we were before. For our L5R characters, we all came back as the descendants of other people's characters at the table.
Oh, I love that.
Which was amazing. And it was very interesting to think about, okay, who would I be? And tie it in. And then weaving in, it was far enough in the things that had happened our campaign were our histories. And we each, honored the ancestor who was also sitting at the table with us, but not anymore, in a very interesting way. And that made it really interesting because it helped with our bad memories, because whatever we remembered was just how we remembered the stories we were told. So it didn't matter that some of the facts might be wrong. I mean, it did matter in some ways, but it made sense. It wasn't like that person forgot it.
It's also oral history, right?
Exactly.
I love that aspect of it, that as we tell stories to people and within each other in our communities, they morph.
Yeah.
Not as drastically necessarily as a game of telephone, but just things change. a story somewhere 100 years later is not going to be the same.
No.
Even with recorded whatever,
Mm-hmm.
people will believe different things. They're getting different perspectives, and I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, it was, and it wove into the game so beautifully too. And then like little things that would Stu would sprinkle in little things like artifacts that were like very meaningful to us. Like literally at one point he was giving us the swords from our original characters, and we each got swords from a different one, and it was like I started crying at the table. Like it was such a thing because we'd played these characters and like this world for so long. And then we came back to it again in a third campaign as people who had heard these stories and weren't related to any of them. And that was another interesting way to kind of tap into all the lore we'd built, but with enough space that we weren't having to make sure we had all the details correct. So I think that's a really interesting and fun way to handle it and give people some more variety. Now, your players might not want that. They might want to be those characters again, and that's a totally different thing. But I definitely think there's something to be said for a time jump and maybe a little bit of character changing, whether it's because they've changed over the time and they would be very different people 20 years later or however far, or maybe it's, you know, the squires who were with them, who heard their first adventures and have like tried to take up the mantle or whatever it is. I think that's a really elegant way to do that and also give some new life and like some freshness to the stories.
Yeah. I mean, it is really fun, like, us, and then once again, like, depending on what notes you have access to and what notes everybody has access to, like, are you thinking about going back to your original character sheets? Are you having to create them from scratch? What system were you running?
Yeah.
Has it iterated since then? Like, I'm thinking, 2 years ago, D&D was 5e, and now it's 2024. Like, so that's changed a lot, or, like, do you maybe want to change systems? It didn't sound like it, but you never know. Maybe think about it. Think about if this is the time to like lay down some house rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
Break out the old, like a fresh set of sheets for company.
Yeah.
Right.
I think another cool idea would be maybe running the campaign at the same time as yours, but like in a different part of the world.
Yeah.
Like your characters are going through the adventure you had in XYZ, and now you're in ABC. I can't think of names right now. I'm sorry, I'm very tired. And like maybe you're hearing stories coming over the mountain, like fighting, how they're fighting evil over there, and let's see. And I don't know. I think that'd be a neat way to do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Or like, I guess the closest, I was just thinking about this, like when lockdown happened, our Murmurs, like our Cthulhu game and the vampire game just kept, like, it would be months in between sessions. And I think the biggest thing for that was just everybody remembering what we were up to.
Oh my gosh, it was so hard.
Like either going back to listen to what we had put out or like going back to your notes or whatever. And it just hit me. I was like, I guess the closest would be either that or like one of the games like that ran over fair, because then it would be 3 months before like when we weren't playing.
Yeah. Oh man.
Copious note taking.
Back in the day, yeah. Or just having your friend take the notes and listening to them read it.
Right.
Puja.
Like I kept a journal for
You did
that
great.
for Call of Cthulhu game. Like a legitimate in-character journal that I still have on my shelf. Though I keep most of my full journals in a section for full journals.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not sure if I
they're
need
easy
all
to
the one-shot
retrieve.
character sheets, but like, am I getting rid of them?
No. I keep the character sheets, but my notes end up being almost incomprehensible later. Because like in the moment, I do a lot of like bullet style note taking. So like in the moment, it all makes sense. And then I look back at it like 2 years later, I'm like, I don't know what duck means.
Yes. Who is this name?
Yeah, were we being shot at? Was there poultry? I don't know. I don't understand.
Was there poultry? I take mine more narratively styled,
Yeah.
and like my biggest issue is that I'm not 100% sure that they'll be legible later because of my habit of attempting to take my notes while still remaining engaged by looking at someone else at the table. So I'm not looking at what I'm writing.
Mhm.
So I have gone back and been like the next, not even like 2 years later, but like the next week when I look at it and I'm like, can't read any of that.
Yeah.
Like there is a whole paragraph here that is completely illegible and is partially written on top of each other. Like,
Yeah. Mike had a really interesting suggestion. Start in the middle of the boss fight, run one round of combat, and then like do the record scratch, and then you might be wondering how we got here.
oh, that's fun.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that like gets people jumped into it, and then maybe do something like love letters, where like everyone kind of explains like, okay, what have I been doing for the past 20 minutes to 10 years or whatever the thing has been.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that would be
Oh, I do
interesting.
love that, like, epistolary kind of, like, have everybody write a letter to their
Yeah.
whoever.
Yeah.
That's right. If it's gonna be like a time jump, whoever it happens to be, yeah.
Mhm.
I was thinking pitfalls, because somebody in the chat mentioned time jump, and now everyone is dating, which I love that idea, but also you want to make sure you talk to your players and make sure that you're aware of like what aspects of their character or their past characters they want to pay off in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
Does the paladin who's been searching for their sister for the past 15 sessions, do they want to keep looking for their sister when you come back into the campaign, or does that, is their sister still missing, or do they want to have found them, and how does that pay off,
Yeah. I think, one of the biggest pitfalls could be, like, just assuming that you know what your players want now versus what they wanted 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And that's, like, we all grow a lot as people, hopefully, in the space of a year to 2 years.
Yeah.
Wants certainly change,
Yeah.
playing styles can change.
And then I think, like, another thing would be to be open to if somebody wants to, like, completely shift what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like, not just, like, player motivation or character motivations or whatever, but, like, I am just going to retcon this entire character. No, it's going to be the same character. We're going to have made all the same choices, but now it is a completely different class, and we're all going to pretend that it was that same class all along, much like when you recast an actor midway through a series.
Right.
Exactly.
You're just not going to, where no one is going to say anything.
No, just pretend the whole time. Yeah,
It is you who is wrong.
Yeah, that's an interesting note about like what the players want. And I feel like a lot of times like continuing campaigns run into the same problem that like comic books or serial TV shows or video games that are all in the same, like it's like you run into this power creep. We'll call it for no reason the supernatural effect.
No reason whatsoever.
No reason. I love that show. Don't get me wrong. Like I watched the entire thing multiple times, so I'm allowed to like nip it on a bit. We're like
made it to like season 5 before I couldn't do it anymore. I was
season 4 is the best, and then we'll get again. I watched all like 50 of them. I think there's 14, but like having it's hard. Like unless your campaign just petered out. Assuming you like finished the campaign, they had their big boss fight or whatever, and they like defeated the big bad evil. It's sometimes hard to find something that is also challenging that doesn't feel just like a copy and paste, but with bigger powers.
Or the other brother going to hell.
Yeah, exactly. Or coming back again, or then going again, and then coming back again. Oh, no, he just lost his soul this time, and now he's back, but he has more powers now. And now they fought the devil, but no, they need another big bad, so now they have the Leviathan. I'm going to stop. But you know what I mean? Like, very clearly, like, that's a thing. So, spending time after session 0, like, getting that information from them in session 0, all the lines and veils, and then talking to them about what they're interested in doing, and then creating some sort of story based on that is like a very vital thing. Because maybe in the first campaign, they just wanted to kill a big evil dragon. And now in this campaign, they're like, for no reason whatsoever, we want to face and murder a political tyrant. Completely unrelated to, anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't relate to
yeah,
that
not at all.
No.
Yeah, no, like, just maybe they want to, like, you know, overthrow a fascist dictator
Yeah.
and you know, build a community
Yeah.
for themselves.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And maybe not. Maybe they just want to build the community part. Maybe they want to, like, so talk to them about what they really want. Because maybe it's like the Golden Girls era of their campaign. Like, maybe they were the heroes of this great story, and they've all retired, and they just want to, like, live in their little, like, house and, like, do crafts or whatever.
That's the and there are whatever ways you can go with that too. Like, you've got the Murder She Wrote route, you've got the Kings of the Wild route.
Yeah.
Like, pulling you back out of retirement.
Yeah.
I do love a pulling you out of retirement.
I do. Yeah, it's very good.
Switch to
Although
Brindlewood
Kings of the
Bay.
Wild didn't work for me.
Yeah.
It worked for a lot of people that I know.
Mhm. So, yeah, I don't know. Think outside the box, and also, like, I 100% agree with what you were saying about tuning into what they want right now. Don't just assume it's the same. And now I really want to run, like, a retirement, like, adventure.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
very good. All right.
it's the days of our lives. I'm sorry.
You could make a good
My show
wanderer
is
for me.
on. My show is on. So we're just gonna take a little break so I can watch my show, and then we'll get back into this.
Absolutely.
Fight break.
All right. Mailbag number 2.
Okay, I could take this one.
Okay.
Dear Happy Jacks, Kimmy and crew, I would like your opinion and recommendations on how to run an open table style game for a group of middle schoolers. I was thinking the open table style of play, each session is independent of the prior sessions, and that the group may consist of different players each session, would be beneficial in a school/club-like setting, as you never know what kid is going to show up. However, I'm also thinking that this may result in very limited stories, given the relatively short time of a session, e.g. 1 to 2 hours. The other question is, what RPG would be good for middle schoolers? D&D has the name recognition, but is rules heavy. However, games like Masks, Monster Hearts, etc. probably are not good choices given that the kids have not experienced the situation the games focus on, i.e. high school relationships. I've looked at games that target the age group, and they all seem too childish. What would you recommend? Quaff your beverage of choice.
So
Thank you,
Nope, quit.
Spats.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Recommendations on how to run an open table. For me personally, I have run like after school programs and games for kids that last 1 or 2 hours a session. You can actually, if it's a couple of hours, you can actually kind of get a lot done in a couple of hours. My average game for kids was a couple of hours.
Nice.
That's luxurious, when you're running for kids
The attention
in a
span.
school setting.
The
Yeah,
attention span.
yeah. Well, not yeah.
My
I mean,
attention span now.
yeah. Well, the nice thing about running for a couple of hours is you have the room to account for the attention spans drifting away.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, pause for a second, have them talk about their day, and then say, okay, let's return to this, play for 10, 15 minutes, pause for a minute while they go grab snacks or whatnot. It's a lot harder when you just have that hour, because so much of that hour is spent reeling your players in. Recommendations, honestly, if you don't know who's going to be there, is have a little bit of a through line, like make each adventure encapsulated or self-contained, but maybe put it all in the same setting with the same cast of NPCs that rotate in and out, so that a kid that comes in can enjoy one session, miss a bunch, and still enjoy the next session, and still have some familiarity with the people who are showing up. But the kids who are able to come more regularly do see things, kind of develop a little bit.
There was I'm on the advice show, therefore everyone knows. There was a book I read once that I think, like, the basic setup of it was that the basic setup was, like, of the actual book was very different, but for this particular purpose, there was, like, a ruler who had set up, like, was hiring all these bands of adventurers to go find a thing. Like, oh, we need to get through all of these different trials in order to find the MacGuffin at the end. And I think it would work incredibly well for an open table kind of
Mhm.
play, because each group of adventurers is tackling a different, like, trial,
Mhm.
like the trials of Hercules kind of style
Sure,
thing,
yeah.
but it's all towards a greater goal, which is, it doesn't have to be like finding the MacGuffin at the end, but it could be like, gaining favor. It could be like whatever the ultimate goal of your setting is. Like, just seems really cool to me. Like, it just popped up. I was like, oh, that would actually be really fun to run with a bunch of different groups. Because, yes, they're kind of competing, kind of not. It can be, like, that there can be some fun things about, like, why one, like, depending on how often your kids show up, where you have regulars versus not regulars. Like, yeah, just a thought. And I think it would be interesting, like, for kids, right? Like, they have an ultimate goal that they see, but much like becoming the best trainer of all the Pokemon ever, it's like down the road.
Yeah.
It's a while. It's a ways.
Yeah.
It's a ways.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna be the very best.
Yeah.
The best that ever was.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Eventually. Yeah, I love that idea. I love like a variation on that too, like the troop style play, where it's like I've seen it work really well with lots of different systems, but specifically with like superhero games, where you have like your Justice League or whatever, or Avengers or whoever you like. You make your own team, obviously, and then
Avengers with a Z.
Avengers. The middle schoolers would 100% think that. 100% think that was very cool. And they send out whichever heroes are best for that, that challenge. Like, if you read the comics, it's like, oh, it's a water adventure. We'll send Aquaman. And he's like, I get to go somewhere. And, whatever it is. And so Aquaman and Wonder Woman or whatever. So they'll all go out and do something together. So I've seen that work really well with kind of groups that were larger and that you had different people every time. Because then you just have to make sure it's episodic. So you are done with it by the end of your allotted time. So that the next week can be like, oh, it's the Sky Adventure. Hawk Girl, you're up, or whatever
then,
it is.
like, also, you can pull in that Young Justice or teen, like, original Teen Titans kind of vibe, where, like, the ending scene is like, this is all part of a larger plan.
Yes.
Wahaha. Which is great when you're watching week to week, and does get old when you binge 14 episodes in a row.
Yeah.
Just from my own experience. But yeah, like, I will say I would not recommend Monster Hearts for middle schoolers ever in my life. I would say, no, please don't do that.
Yeah.
But Masked, on the other hand, because Masked isn't based in romantic relationships and can be very, like, kids have friendships, they have complicated friendships as early as elementary school.
Yes.
For middle schoolers, like, yeah, they understand friendships, they understand having problems with their parents, they're just starting to have the real problems with their parents that,
Yes.
like, that will bloom into full teenage rebellion.
Yeah.
And I feel like Masks can be, in part because it's so easy to create a character, it's so easy to pick up a character sheet and all these different things. And especially with the new book that I don't remember the name of at all. I guess it's not new now. Whatever, it's been however many years. But they give you kind of that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They give you S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
in that one. And it's an easy in to what Kimmy was talking about with, like, episodic, but a longer term kind of organization that is pulling in different teams of superheroes specifically. And just fun to say, like, they don't all have to go to the same school.
Yeah.
It can be like, okay, here is, like, they are in these different areas. Like kids from different neighborhoods go to different schools, but they live in the same neighborhood, weirdly.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I said
Yeah.
kids from different neighborhoods, and then I said live in the same neighborhood, but
Yeah.
we're not gonna address that at all.
That's fine.
Kids in the same neighborhood can often go to different schools.
Yes.
And so they still interact and they're still friends, but they're separated that way. And I think it's an interesting thing to, like, pull in for kids of that age.
Yeah. I feel like Masks has a meta narrative that they might not be able to tap into, but I don't know if that matters at that age.
Yeah.
Like, part of it is about, like, reflecting on being a teenager and the lack of control and stuff. And they might not get that part, but they're going to get, hey, I have superpowers. They
But
might
also,
be.
at middle school, like, I think they've already run up against the gauntlet. They've been bashing that brick wall of, like, I have no agency their entire lives.
Yeah.
They're just now getting to the point where they might have some.
Yes. Yes. So they'll definitely identify with that. I think, I mean, you can run troop style stuff with any system. I mean, I know I'm not usually its biggest proponent, but I think D&D might be a really great choice because it has the most stuff available. It's going to be the easiest for them to find if they want to continue in the hobby. And it's going to be the easiest thing once they have some experience for them to find people who want to play with them outside of gaming. I will probably never say anything like that about D&D good like that again. So, like, mark this date and time. But, I mean, we have to admit it is, you know, the biggest game out there. It's the one that literally it's like the Kleenex or Xerox of TTRPGs for the most part. I was honestly at the con today, and I stopped by a booth, and they're like, "Oh, are you into D&D stuff?" I'm like, "Not really so much, mostly TTRPGs." And like, "Oh, we just say D&D like Kleenex," and I was like,
Destroy that
Cool.
brand.
Yeah.
You know what would be, because it is really easy if you're newer to D&D or newer to the system or whatever iteration of it is to completely destroy your character by accident, and just make them useless. But a thing that I find like that's just really great is if you have for each class have a base set of things already determined and then like a buffet style of like, okay, pick 2 from here, pick 1 from here, pick 1 from here, and you've built your character so that they don't have to think about like 70 different steps, but it is like still every character is different. Like, but I don't know that it's really necessary for everyone to be like doing their stat spreads or like picking starting gear and like have them choose their backgrounds, have them choose what race they want to be, have them choose like what spells they want to use. But it doesn't always have to be the full list of 150 things to go through to make every character seem unique.
Right. Yeah, I think that's sort of the most mindful. I mean, one of the things that you have to be mindful for when you're running for middle schoolers. I agree. D&D is, that's what we used to run for, you know, the after school program and in-school programs, actually. For the in-school programs, because they were mostly learn to play stuff, we would use pre-generated characters. But for the after-school program, when we did have that good couple of hours, usually our first session would be, or, you know, at least like the first hour or so of the session would be, putting characters together. And like you said, Pooja, just not overwhelming them with the options. I mean, the thing about any game is you can really, depending on what your goal is, you can peel away as many of the rules as you can to, you know, make something that your kids can play. And as your kids get more sessions under the belt, you can sort of trickle the rules in and have them learn things sort of piecemeal, right? I first started playing D&D, quote unquote, with my kids when they were like 3 and 5 years old. And I just you know, I limited the stat. Yeah. Actually, the first game we ever played was the Ghostbusters RPG, which is a lot of fun. And we'll get to that in a minute, actually. But yeah, I just peeled away enough of the rules. I kind of distilled it so that the rules could fit or so that their character stats could fit in an index card. Yeah. And now they're old enough to just use a regular character sheet, right? That actually didn't take very long.
When you start them early.
Yeah.
It's that, like, my parents has been training me in this for my entire life.
Yeah.
But for TTRPGs, and I love that.
Yeah. They're used to it, you know. Yeah.
Some people it's dance moms, for you it's D&D dads.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Sorry.
I was going to jump in real quick on the character creation piece. Things you can do to speed that up, having run complicated things with kids many times. Have like index cards that have all the equipment already written on it. and be like, oh, you're a fighter. Okay, here's your equipment. Add one thing else to the list. So all they have to do is like, okay, I've got rope, I've got whatever you have, and then that just takes a little bit of that time away. Be like, here, you can pick from these starting things, hand them an index card. And D&D Beyond, which is great, like, I highly suggest you probably use that, at least for middle schoolers. They can definitely handle that, and it will really walk them through the process. If D&D Beyond can make me play D&D well, it can make middle schoolers play D&D well. And then they just have to go through and find the things that match whatever was on your index card and add that to their sheet in D&D Beyond.
Or if you don't want to use devices, Fun Arts and Crafts Project on the other side
There you
is
go.
to
Yes.
make fun cards.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a deck of many things kind of situation.
Absolutely.
Um,
And I mean, D&D does have like cards that you can use with like class features and spells and abilities and things like that too. There are options out there. Kimmy, did you want to elaborate more on what you had, where you kind of started or the thought you started?
Evidently not, because I mean,
Okay.
my thought was literally just have those cards
Sure,
pre-done,
yeah,
so you hand it
yeah.
to them. So you're just taking out, like Pooja was already talking about, like condensing down the number of choices.
Yeah.
Just having them do that, so they don't end up with less equipment. They just don't have to sit there and debate in their head over the millions of pieces of equipment in the
it's
book.
just, even as an adult, it's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like the choice paralysis is real. And like why I didn't get out of character creation in BG3 for like a year. Like it was just like, what if I do this? But what if I do this? But what if I do this? And like it's just too many choices. And unlike BG1, cleric wasn't the obvious only choice if you wanted to finish the game.
Right.
But yeah, I think in terms of like, so Mass is obviously really good. D&D is really like, you can make it work. I think another, like, if you want something even simpler, we played Quest.
Oh,
Yeah.
Quest. Yeah, Quest is good.
Is
yeah.
an easy pick up and go. Where it literally just writes everything out for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another one, but it's gone now.
It's gone.
Oh, Cypher is actually pretty easy to pick up and go.
Okay.
Especially if you have pre-made characters for them, or like we were talking about, just simplify the character creation a little bit. And it is a really, I found it easy when I was like, I was first introduced to it in like a one-shot scenario, and honestly, pretty easy to jump into. And I think for kids too, like, especially because it really bases everything off of like, you're giving them the information that they absolutely need to have, and then it's like bonuses and fights and other stuff where like they would spend points. So it is a much simpler form of roleplay and combat, especially, than D&D is. Or even masks that can get narratively complicated, and like for kids who aren't necessarily as good at doing that performance aspect of it. Just a thought that kind of system, like if you want to run a mystery game, especially like something with a mystery at its heart, or sessions like, say you're running it kind of like a procedural, where you have a different mystery to solve every week, but it can be solved in 1 to 2 hours.
Other system-wise too, kind of expanding on that, I mentioned the Ghostbusters RPG. The West End Games D6 system, at its core, is fantastic. I'm going to use Ghostbusters as an example because your entire character, same thing, is in an index card, and it offers a lot of creativity as far as like having a kid determine what makes their character unique. So that's one thing you could track down. I think the current incarnation of it right now, it's out of print because, older IP, I guess. But the current incarnation that I know of right now is ACE. It's the something combat engine. I can't remember, or something engine. I can't remember what it is. It's essentially like the spiritual successor to the West End D6. It's like sort of the generic spiritual successor to that system.
Yeah, I think also Alan at I can't remember his company. Well, I'll think of it in like 2 seconds. Is they just did, I mean not just did, but like did a Kickstarter I think last year, and is reprinting the D6 system. It doesn't have the IPs attached,
Sure.
but it's the same. Gallant
Oh.
Knight Games. There we go.
Oh.
Got it in my brain. I was like, Green Knight Games. No, that's a different. Green Knight is a different thing.
Yeah.
So that they have this. It's the same system. I love the Star Wars West
Star
End
Wars
games.
D6, yeah,
I haven't.
yeah.
I didn't play the Ghostbusters one, but it is such a great system. So I think that they are going to be printing the system just by itself.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I need to
Oh,
look at
nice.
it.
And then you could just insert it in whatever setting
Yeah.
you want to have.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And that's the nice thing about that. It makes a great generic system. You can set it for fantasy. You can set it for sci-fi, modern day.
Yeah.
You know.
I love that system. The mechanics of that system so much.
Oh, and going back to, I was about to say you could set it for a Kids on Bikes-ish adventure. Kids on Bikes, I don't think it's a great game for middle schoolers because it relies so much on like 80s and like old tech nostalgia. But Kids on Brooms, though, that's a fantastic system. I think
yeah.
that would be a lot of fun. And that's much less crunchy than D&D.
And there's like kids on hoverboards too.
Yeah,
Little,
there's like a
near
variety.
future kind of situation.
Yeah. Little hacks of it,
Yeah. Like that the hacks of the kids on I think works. Tales from the Loop once again relies a lot on nostalgia
Yeah.
that I think is but like if you wanted to take the Tales from the Loop kind of system
Yeah.
and the bones of it and then change the setting,
Mm-hmm.
I think it could work really well for kids.
Yeah.
It is another one that's a real easy set of system to pick
So
up.
easy
To make your characters,
Mhm.
really easy to make your
Yeah,
characters. And then you get the fun of rolling a bunch of dice every time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which, like, let's be real.
Handfuls of dice.
Just
Yeah.
well, it's not like you're not double fisting the dice, but like you have like a satisfying amount of rolling going on and a satisfying number of dice when you do it.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of systems, like it's like two,
Yeah, 1, 2.
and that's fine.
3 maybe.
And they never show up happy. Like it's like no matter how many of the D6s we're playing Electric State right now, which might be a good suggestion because it's the same mechanics as Kids on Bikes, or as Tales from the Loop. But while it does rely on nostalgia, it's like alt history, so you can, in a way that I think it's like a road trip, you can make it not as necessary. We have 2 players who are too young to remember the 90s at our table. And they're having a good time anyway because of just the weirdness in the world, and like we plug into the net, and I feel like kids could have a really interesting experience doing that with how plugged in they are in modern days, and like seeing like how dark that can get, but like and being able to like pull out of that. I don't know, I feel like that could be an interesting system for them. And it's so, like you were just saying, it's so easy to make your character, but the other thing is so easy at the end of each session to advance your character slightly. Like you roll 1 die, it's like if it's higher than this, you do a thing, if it's lower than this, you pick a thing, and then you're done. And it just is very elegant system.
I mean, I really do love, like, it's like, okay, here's a list of 5 questions. How many did you answer yes to?
Yeah.
I love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just makes life so easy.
I love it. I don't know. I feel like the answer is like whatever you're vibing with as the GM. Like whatever kids especially that are new to gaming need as much help as possible. So whatever you as a GM are best with will be the correct answer. Like I would never recommend GURPS for most people, but like I've played GURPS with GMs who made the rules invisible. Like I had Mook run who literally one of the best GURPS GMs who's ever existed, wrote a bunch of stuff for them before he passed. He made it an amazing story game. It felt like a story game because he knew the rules so well. He literally was like, you try it, roll 3d, 3 whatever, and I don't even remember the rules stuff. But and it just felt effortless, and it felt so much fun, and the story just flowed so well because that is what he knew. He knew it so well down to the bones that it became invisible for all of us. And I think that's the best system to play in. Is whatever one that you can make the easiest, that you are going to be able to improvise the best in, that you are going to be able to make real for the players. I think that's gonna be your answer, as much as we can like suggest the stuff we would like.
This is true. This is true. Like the main thing is that you need to know it super well because they're not going to.
Yeah.
Or that one kid is going to, and is going to challenge you at every turn.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Certainly had that.
And frustrating and amazing.
Yeah.
And you just like are so proud, at the same time you're so annoyed. You're just like, that's great.
Yeah.
Children.
Children.
Can I throw one
Yeah,
more thing
no,
in the mix?
absolutely.
Okay. Last week I got to run Daggerheart.
Yay!
The new Critical Role game, Darrington Press game.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of cards, that game comes baked with like decks of cards
So
that
much stuff.
represent the various abilities. It's all in the core rule book.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a nice other option, I suppose, if you want to do some heroic fantasy. It's a little, actually, believe it or not, it's a little crunchier at the offset than D&D.
Yeah.
Like there are a couple of layers
Terrifying.
there are a couple of layers of gameplay that it throws into its core mechanics that that takes some explaining. But you've got cards for the characters. All you need to do is say, hey, so which one of these 9 occupations do you want to do? You can put those cards out. The kids can pick those and pluck those, and from there you kind of just dole out cards to the players as they make their choices, and they've got their little deck that they can refer to. And for me, like, honestly, if you know the system, right, like you mentioned, Pooja,
That was a Kimmy thing.
that's true, part of what comes with that is knowing how much of the rules you can peel away to make it an experience that the players can absorb, that your kids can absorb. And so, just kind of be mindful about that. Do you want to use hit points, or do you want to use a different, like, abstraction of hit points? Do you want to use armor class? Do you want to use something else? Do you want to incorporate all the different kinds of checks in a game, or do you want to just yank some of those out and keep it to a simple roll or a simple handful of rolls?
Yeah, and you don't have to explain everything. I think there's a lot of beauty, especially when you're first getting someone into whatever TTRPG is like, oh, you want to try smashing the light before they see you. Okay, roll 2d6 or whatever it is. So you don't be like, well, you take this before your modifier, and then you're going to, so that ends up as 2d6. Like leave all that part out of it until they get the basic, their basic bearings with the system. And then you can start adding more of that in so they're understanding why things are the way they are. But don't feel like you have to teach the minutia right out of the gate. Definitely don't.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah, please don't. And some people will never want to know that ever.
Look, I do once I have my feet.
Oh, I was talking about me.
Oh, I was like, I felt called out for a second.
No.
But also as a child, I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
No.
No.
Yeah. They're living their best cartoon life, and they just want to have their adventure and be the winner, and it's great. And you might have 1 or 2 kids who are super into the math part of it and want to know why, and many of them won't care at all. And just roll.
Also,
with it.
for the kids who do, that is what the internet is for, my friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, there's probably an article or a video somewhere who could explain it much better than you can.
There is a TikTok out there for you.
Somewhere. All right. Mailbag number 3 from the archive in 2018. Dear Jackers, happy or otherwise, we had something come up in our D&D game recently, and I wanted your input. To set the stage, our adventuring party of 5 players includes 4 magic users. Wow. So we've got a lot of mojo at our command. More importantly, 3 of these players, a wizard, a warlock, and a sorcerer, walk into a bar and no, I'm just kidding, have counterspell available. That was my joke. It's bad. Okay, I'm sorry. Our GM expressed frustration about this in his recent sessions. He sent out magic-wielding NPCs to battle, only to find them counterspelled to futility. He complained that it's difficult to challenge us in combat, and not much fun on his part. Well, this is when his interesting enemies can't actually do anything interesting. At our most recent session, our party was ambushed by a large group of mercenaries, which included a corresponding mage for each magic-using PC, and each NPC just happened to be loaded up with Counterspell. As you can imagine, the PC mages spent a lot of time watching their spells fizzle. We survived the encounter, though it might have gotten better had the caster's best spells been allowed to go off. Adversarial GMing aside, what do you think the role of such effects should be in games? When I run games, I've stopped using effects that would completely shut down a PC, paralysis, confusion, sleep, etc. The GM controls the entire world, but the players control one character, and losing control of your character means sitting back and watching other people play for long stretches of time. I've never seen a player enjoy that, especially in a combat-focused game like D&D. But at the same time, is it fair to expect the GM to remove all of those options from their toolbox, especially in a game like D&D, where the players can be powerful and the difficulty of encounters can be narrowly defined? If you're playing a murder hobo game, it might seem like you're taking a lot of your most interesting options off the table. So where do you draw the line, Jackers? Harold from St. Louis, Missouri.
Send melee or ranged characters after your mages, and then Counterspell doesn't do anything.
That's true.
Sorry. I'm just saying, like...
I think the question is, like, the NPCs using Counterspell against the PCs.
Yeah.
Oh, well, on that end, sorry, I just got caught up in this, like... Okay, if you're mad that your NPCs keep getting counterspelled, and it's not fun for you to like have people whiff all the time, give them things that are interesting that aren't counterspellable.
Yeah.
But also, there's a happy middle. There's a happy medium here between having enough mages in your NPC cast to shut down every single one of your player characters and not using any of those tools. I think it can be really satisfying to have your players make a choice that, like, yes, this character has gotten shut down for a turn. They're asleep. Sleep can be fixed by aid. Are they going to spend their action aiding their friend? Or are they going to let them sleep for the next 10 turns? Like, or what are the other things that they could do? Do they have 2 attacks? Can they throw something soft at their friend and then use that second attack for, like, you know, just little things. Like, it doesn't... D&D, complicated. Lots of rules, lots of things. Combat can take forever. So it does mean, yeah, like, maybe one player is spending, like, the next 10 to 15 minutes not doing something if they miss their turn. But I feel like they're going to spend 10 to 15 minutes not doing anything while their friends are all doing their thing anyway. So
Right.
one turn isn't that big of a deal. 2 turns isn't that big of a deal. It is a problem if your table is such that, like, one person is paralyzed or put to sleep and no one is trying to do anything about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, that feels like a table cohesion problem. Because it would feel bad to me as a player. It would feel bad to know that, like, my friends just didn't give a damn.
Yeah.
That my character is completely sidelined, but I feel like that's a bigger issue than just, like, whether or not the GM should be able to do something.
Yeah, that's pulling it out of the narrative, because they are now being super meta as a player and being like, oh, okay, well, in one round, that person will wake up, or whatever it is, where if you were actually, like, in that situation as a group of friends, hopefully, or at least, you know, comrades fighting something, looking over and seeing someone, like, laying on the ground, you'd probably, like, rush over and see if that, you know, you wouldn't know. So I feel like there's that meta component, which happens so often, at least in my experience in D&D combat, where people step out of their characters and become players for combat only and start thinking of things in, like, statistical and turn things instead of emotionally how you would react in that moment.
Mm.
And I feel like that's something that a lot of tables struggle to resolve.
Because it takes so long. Because every action takes so long.
Yeah.
I will say, like, and in the chat, there are a lot of people saying that it feels really bad to lose a turn. So, but there are a lot of things that, a lot of effects and other things that characters can do that doesn't actually require, like, a caster, especially, to lose a turn.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they get knocked prone. Maybe they're ensnared. Maybe
they get
have
restrained, or
maybe they're blind. Blinded by darkness.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
I was-
a lot of things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for your DM, just a little bit of advice. Environmental effects are like a great way to challenge your players without having an NPC that casts spells. So there's that. Also, enemies with mobility or range, like you mentioned, Pooja, but like, you know, incorporeal creatures that can like phase through and make it to your back line. Creatures that can fly, obviously, wall crawl or burrow. Those, you know, just if you've got NPCs, give them like minions or animal allies that can do that kind of thing to reach that back line. And I think, honestly, I don't have a whole lot of problem with spells that lock down a player as long as you don't use them all the time.
Right.
Like once per combat on one person, every like few sessions, that's okay. Then it kind of raises the stakes, right? People realize, wait a minute, these opponents can absolutely stun somebody, and we've got to do something about that, right? But as long as it's not like every single combat, you know,
It is also
mages are paralyzing, stunning, or anything, you know, opponents or players like that.
it's also really fun where you know, like, okay, you have a group of these people, and the last time you fought them, like, somebody stunned somebody, so you know you need to focus fire that person.
Yeah.
Like, and it can be fun for a GM in terms of, like, making a challenging encounter that isn't about abilities to have the terrain be interesting or
Yeah.
different.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, like, with the group with three casters, that becomes less of a option, but that doesn't mean it's completely
Yeah.
off the table, especially when you, like what you were talking about, like enemies that can phase in and out or have more mobility, or like, I don't know, give your NPC, Jason does this all the time, like, I'm using this thing, except it's not that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
just
Break the
little
rules.
tweaks. Just little tweaks, because
I did air quotes for everyone listening at home.
um,
No, I agree.
that, like, okay, they have one thing that's more of an ability, or if it's a class ability, or if it's a racial ability, then it couldn't be counterspelled, or whatever it is. Like Dragon's Breath, you cannot counterspell Dragon's Breath.
Yep.
Right.
Like, things like that. I don't necessarily mean, like, give somebody, you know, a Dragon's Breath that then refreshes every round and destroys your baby.
That seems like a bad plan.
That you definitely wanted to be your friend. It definitely would have been your friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would have been our wonderful little, you know,
We
12-legged
could have had
companion.
a pet
Yeah.
giant Bahir.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Lightning lizard.
I haven't in years, not since I have not DM'd 5th edition or the new version of 5th edition, which is different. But like, also one of the things that I have memory of when I play D&D is, like, casters need line of sight for a lot of things. So put them in a forest, put them in a cave with stalactites and stalagmites all over the place, because that can actually give your fighters a little bit of an advantage, because they've got stuff to hide behind, stuff like that. And then, like, kind of nerf your casters just a little bit, because they have to be a little bit more careful about where they are on the board and things like that.
And that's a thing too, is like, if they need to have, and that's what the terrain, like, moving around and doing different things, and like things that aren't necessarily about just taking them out of combat, but making them think differently, or like, it's not always about my abilities versus your abilities. Sometimes it's about how you encounter, where you encounter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it can make or break something.
Yeah. Like alternate win conditions or alternate victory or success conditions are another thing. Not necessarily for the players, but for the opponents. If they succeed in X, the game's gonna, the stakes are gonna change. And the game is going to change drastically for the players, that kind of thing. Including NPCs that are kind of in the middle of the opponents that the players are invested in or want to save. So no big fireballs or lightning bolts or AoEs, other things like that. That's another way you can challenge your players. Certainly.
So what you're saying is take hostages.
Sure, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
The sympathetic NPC is an excellent deterrent.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on
Wonderful
your purpose.
motivator, I think, is really
Yeah.
Wonderful motivator.
I mean, if you're
Wonderful.
playing the Murder Hobo game, really you're just feeding them, like, just up the level on your opponents. Like, if you're finding them too easy to beat, like, up the level on the opponents.
Yeah.
Because counterspell is not a given if
Yeah.
they're casting a spell at the higher level, then they're counterspelling it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like Murder Hobo games don't necessarily need, like, super powerful opponents. Like, the fun is really just steamrolling everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
100%. All right. Thank you, Harold, from St. Louis, Missouri in 2018. I don't know if you still listen, but thank you for your email way back then. I don't know if we gave different advice or the same advice, but there's
I hope
some
your
advice.
GM chilled.
Yeah, I hope you had fun. I hope everything turned out
Yeah.
well. All right. Thank you for joining us for season 35, episode 19 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. Please support our amazing indie designer of the month, who we will announce next week. Thank you to our chat mod, James B., and to all the amazing Patreons who keep us ad-free and independent. You can join their amazing ranks at happyjacks.org/Patreon. We really, really appreciate you all. And we think of you every single time we are in the studio in the summer when it's 90 to 110 outside and we have an air conditioning running because you help me pay the electric bills. Thank you so much.
So
My-
important.
Yeah, my teacher's salary. Appreciate you too. My name is Kimmy. You can find me at Golden Lasso Girl on mostly just Blue Sky now. I think I'm on Instagram once in a while, but you can also find my company at Golden Lasso Games, or you can reach me at happyjacksrpg, and those are all me. So pick the name you talk to me with. It's all the same kind of. And you can find my games at goldenlassogames.com.
My name is Jay. You can find me at JAfrica in most of the socials. You can also find me in the Happy Jacks back catalog and streaming here every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific.
Yes,
Did I get that right? I think that sounds about right. Sorry, the schedule
Time
changed.
is a lie.
Yeah, it's a construct. Except tomorrow, because it's Father's Day here in the United States. And I'm gonna be out of town anyway. So let's see. But you can find me streaming here every Sunday on the Astral Circus alongside this wonderful individual over here. And other than that, I don't really have a whole lot going on. So it's been an interesting day because here we live in interesting times, and I hope that you if you wanted your voice heard, that you were able to do that today, and if not, that's okay. I hope that you took care of yourself, took care of the people you loved, and stayed safe out there.
Hi, I'm Pooja. You can find me on the internet as Forgotten Saves. If you want to find me, if you just want to watch me do things that aren't TTRPGs, I now have a YouTube channel called Forgotten Curiosities, where I build weird things. And so that's fun, and I'm having a really good time with it. If you want to hear me play more TTRPGs, you can find me on the Astral Circus on Sundays with Jay. You can find me on the Happy Jacks back catalog, on the 12-Sided Stories back catalog, or on Queen's Court Games Mekong. And soon to come, a mini shot of Maria in 3 parts, which Unknown Armies is really fun. That's just a really great system.
I probably should have said I'm also in our Electric State AP that's happening right now on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific time, where I play a soon-to-be cult leader. I just need to get people following me before I am officially a cult leader, but I'm working at it.
I'm sure but
It's fine.
It'll be great.
It's a very weird campaign on purpose, and it's amazing. And that is Road to Nowhere. So check that out. All right. Today we're going to leave you with a song. The song is called Sulfur, and it's by our friends, the heavy metal acoustic pirates of the Dread Crew of Oddwood. And you can find them at thedreadcrewofoddwood.com. Don't forget the. It's there. So yeah, thank you all, and we will see you next week. Please stay safe. If you're in LA with us, we love you, and please make sure you're taking care of yourself. All right, bye. And everywhere. Everyone take care of yourselves. Be strong, no kings. Bye.
Bye, folks.